Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us for the next installment of our faculty development series. This is a really great one because it's one of our own, and some of you may already know or have worked directly with Dr. Adu. I know he's been an incredible resource for students that I've worked with on their dissertation and getting things together. And so when he was a speaker for OL 621, the intro to qualitative research course for me in the last term, I said, you've got to come and talk about this book and give us some insight on how it could be helpful for us as a resource for students in the program and possibly for some courses. So without further ado, I'm going to stand down and let you take over, buddy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Morris, for giving me the opportunity to speak to your colleagues. So I have been working with students for more than 7 years, and my focus is qualitative research. So I've been receiving a lot of questions concerning how they want to analyze their qualitative data. And I look around to find resources for them, but I just realized that there should be a book that is very comprehensive in nature in terms of how they should analyze the data and also present their results. And there should be a book that also have one kind of data and give examples of how that data can be analyzed and categorized in terms of the themes and also presented based on the research questions. So this book is like how to analyze qualitative data from start to finish and also presenting your findings. So I spend a lot of time thinking about how to, communicate this process to students, and then it came up with this book. And as you know, the book is a step-by-step guide to qualitative data coding. And this presentation, I'm going to divide it into three sections. The first one is to talk about the problem, specific problem that I received from students, and in terms of how data should be analyzed, and also the specific solutions and also things that I talk about in the book that will help them to address the specific problem that they were having. And also I will talk a little bit about the features of the book. And as I'm doing a presentation, you can stop me anywhere to ask me questions and I'll be happy to address them for you. And also you can type in your question and I'll be happy to address them for you. So well, let's start with the problem. I try to categorize the student problem into five. So the first one is they are having issues in terms of the specific data analysis tool they have to use. They ask me, so what kind of tool should I use? Should I use NVivo? Should I use Atlas TI? Should I just do the analysis manually? Should I just have a pencil and a paper and then do the coding? So they have a lot of questions concerning that. And also in terms of coding, they ask questions about what specific strategy should I use based on their research question or the research approach they are using or the data that they have. And also how they can categorize the code after they have developed about maybe 20 or 30 codes. How do you go categorizing all these codes? And next one is connecting. So how do you connect the themes that you have developed maybe to come up with maybe a theory to explain a phenomenon? And lastly, how do you communicate your findings? What is the format of communicating qualitative findings? So let's go through each of them, right? So in terms of choosing the data analysis tools, some of the questions that they ask is, which qualitative analysis tool is appropriate considering the kind of data I have, right? And then which of the qualitative analysis tool is easy to use? And also lastly, will the software do the analysis for you? That's the question that I've been receiving. So in my book, I try to identify specific tools that will be useful for students to use, and I try to explain how to use those tools. Whether a student is using doing the analysis manually or they want to use a software. And also, some students also ask me if they don't have money to buy the software, do we have any free software they can use? So I was able to identify a free software, which is the QDA Minor Lite. They have about three versions, and one of the version is free for students to use. So if they want to use a software and they don't have enough money to buy, they can use software for free. And some students ask me if they want to do the analysis manually, can they use Microsoft Word? Yes, they can use that. So in my book, I explain how to use Microsoft Word document to do the manual coding. And also, if a student wants to analyze the data online, this means that the student has to upload their data into a system online and they can code the data and they don't have to download anything software on their computer. They can use any kind of computer to access their data because it's online, it's in the cloud. So I also demonstrate how to use Deduce. And in Vivo, that's the tool that most students use. Also, I have a chapter that discusses how to use in Vivo from start to finish. I did not talk about QDA, Max QDA, and Atlas TI, and also Odin Answers. They are all good tools, but I cannot discuss everything. So I just focus on QDA minor using Microsoft Word and Vivo and Deduce. As I said, these are all good tools. And the last one, this Odin Answers, is a tool if you want to analyze your data automatically. If you want the software to analyze your data for you without going through and doing the coding yourself, you can use this software. And it's free. It's not free if you want to use it as a commercial, but it's free for academic purpose. So this means that if, let's say, you have a survey where you measured a variable or a group of variables, and at the same time you collected open-ended responses from participants, and you want to try to see how the themes in the open-ended responses are related to the variables that you are measuring, then you can use this software, can do automatic analysis of the open-ended responses and then see how they are related. And this software can help you with that. As I said, it's free for academic use. If you want to use it, you just have to email them that you want to use it for academic purpose, and then you will be able to access the software for free. And it's online, so you don't have to download anything on your computer. You can use it. So the next one is the coding. So the question student asks me, what is qualitative coding? And I always tell them that it's just summarizing your data, right? In summary, it's very different from ordinary summary because you want people to trust what you summarize. So what do you have to do? You have to do it in a systematic process. And you have to show to your audience how you move from maybe identifying significant information from the data and developing codes, and then moving from code to develop themes, and then sometimes finding out whether there is a relationship between the themes and maybe come up with a theory. You have to demonstrate that. So it's all about data reduction, summarizing the data that you have. And then the summary should address your research question. So that's the reason why you collected your data. And how is coding done? I explained in my book and how it's done, give a lot of examples, and which coding method is appropriate considering the data I have. I also answered this question in my book. So in my book, I try as much as possible to make things very simple for students, especially those who are new to analyzing their qualitative data. So I came up with three strategies, right? And looking at the research question that you have, the research approach that you have chosen, and also the kind of data that you have, you'll be able to choose from one of the three. Description focused coding is all about you are summarizing, you are describing, you are not bringing your understanding into the data, you are just summarizing what participant told you, all the information that you have. You are not going to interpret what the events or what participant or what people that you are interviewing them gave you. You just summarizing or giving your audience the information that you got right from the source. It's very different from interpretation focused coding. Interpretation, you are making meaning from what participant presented to you. So if a participant described their stories to you, you ask yourself, what does the information mean to you, considering the research question that you have? So you are making it, you are interpreting. And the last approach that you could use is, especially when you are developing a theory, is presumption focused coding. You have, based on evidence, you develop a claim, right? You develop a conclusion based on what you have found in the data. And those conclusions will be called codes. And the significant information that you found in the data are evidence. So you look through the evidence that you have in the data and then you make your own conclusion, but it should be supported by the evidence that you have identified in the data. So I provide all this information and explain and also give examples and show students how to analyze using these kind of approaches. So after coding, what next? You have to categorize your code or you have to develop themes. And the question I received from students, how do I categorize my code? How do I generate themes? How many themes should I develop? So in terms of categorization, I came up with three strategies. The first one is individualized based sorting, right? It's a type of sorting, but it's done by the researcher. That's called individual based, right? And the second one is the sorting or grouping of the codes that you have developed is done by a group of people. At least if you have a group of 10, they can help you to categorize the code that you have. And then you'll be able to, after they have to individually categorize the code and then give you the results. And then you run statistical analysis and then come up with a theme that represents the sorting that they gave you, right? Everybody sort, and then you put everything together, you come up with the main themes representing the way that they sorted the codes that they have. So, and I explain everything in my book. The individual based sorting is where you just look at individual codes, look at the content, right? The content is the significant information that you identify in the data that is connected to the code, right? So you look at the content, you look at the characteristics of the code, and then based on that, you'll be able to find out whether there's kind of similarities among them, and then think about bringing some of them together. At the end of the day, you put them into various classes, and then based on that, you come up with themes. So that's another way of doing that. And as I said, I explain everything in my book. And the last one is the presumption focused strategy. With this one, you see the codes as evidence, and then the categories or the themes that you're going to develop are claims. So based on the code that you have, based on the evidence that you have, what conclusion can you make? And based on the conclusion, you just connect the evidence to support the conclusion. Then based on that, you'll be able to develop themes. And this approach is used when you are doing a granite theory. You want to develop a theory to explain a phenomenon or an experience. The next one is connecting themes, right? So when is it appropriate to connect themes? How do I connect themes, what should I do if a team doesn't have a relationship with the other teams, right? And I address all of them in my book. So in my book, I came up with 6 types of relationship, right? In terms of connecting. So in connecting, you just want to find out whether there's a relationship between the themes that you have developed, right? There could be a concurrent relationship between them. This means that they are happening at the same time, right? The themes are happening at the same time. Maybe it's chronological. One starts and then followed by another. It's overlapping. Is there? So you ask yourself: is there the theme that you have? Do you have any overlapping relationship? Right? Is Do they have some kind of common things that you can connect them connect them so that it could be one or so? Do you have like embedded relationship where one theme is within another theme, right? Is one theme explaining another theme? Is one theme causing another theme? So this is a question that you have to ask yourself as you look at the content of the theme and the characters of the theme that you have developed. And I explain everything in there. So the last one is, how do I present the findings? Should I write the findings? Should I write the findings in first person or third person point of view? How do I incorporate illustration in my presentation? And I address all these questions in the book. So basically, there are 3 main formats, right? And one of them is theme-driven format. This is where you are presenting your finding based on the theme that you have developed in addressing a research question. It also can also present it based on the case. This means that if you have 10 participants, you describe what you found for each participant. So participant A, this is what the participant A, or this is what these are the themes that participants in make reference to, right? So normally, if you want to compare and contrast the group of participants or individual participant, theme-driven format will be the best, right? Or there's so much uniqueness in terms of each participant's views. You want to share how participant A views is very different from all related to participant B. You can present it in the case base, right? Most of the time, if you are doing a case study, and then the case-based format will be the best. Most of the time, you just have to use the theme-driven, or you can combine both. The most important thing is, are you addressing the research question as you are presenting your finding? That's what your audience want to know. How do your findings address the research question that you have? So that is all that I have in terms of the features. It has 14 chapters, about 200 illustrations with commentaries, and a chapter on conducting manual coding, and 3 chapters using qualitative analysis software. And I talk about using a Vivo, Deduce, and QDA minor light. And in chapter 14, I summarize everything in this table. So let's say, based on the approach that you are using, whether you are using, I did not talk about all the approaches in qualitative, that these are the main approaches researchers use. So if you are using phenomenological approach, in terms of coding strategy, you can use descriptive or description or interpretation focus coding. In terms of categorization strategy, you can use individual-based sorting. And in terms of the structure, in terms of how to present the findings, you can do it based on the theme, right? So I have this table just to summarize what I talk about in all the chapters that I have. So if you want access to my book, you can go to the publisher website and you can search my name, or you can also go to Amazon and search my name. You'll be able to get. And if you are an instructor of qualitative research, you can request for a free copy for you to use. And if you think that it's going to be good for your student, then you can recommend to your student to access the information. So that's all that I have for you. I don't know whether you have questions for me. I'll be happy to address them for you.
Thank you so much, Philip. Yeah, let's open it up for questions or comments for Dr. Adu.
Hi.
Hello.
I have a question. How long did this take you to put this all together?
It took me a year to put all together. Um, so what happened is that a publisher, a staff from this publishing company, I always find it difficult to mention the name, is Routledge, emailed me that she saw my presentation online about qualitative analysis and am I interested to write a book on that? And I told her that I will be able to do that because most of the information that I presented in my book, I have already, talk about it in my presentation. So it's just like summarizing and put
Right.
everything together. And so she told me to write a proposal. I sent her the proposal. It took about 3 months to hear from them, and then they approved and they made some suggestions for me. And I signed a contract, and it gave me a year to finish. So yes, it took me a year.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. I have something, Philip, because I ordered the book already and I have a copy and I'm sitting here with it. And I want to say, uh, from both the perspective of an instructor and from a student who struggled with this, thank you for having the foresight to do it. And
You're
when I sit
welcome.
and talk with my colleagues about this, those of us who are done with dissertation, we always joke that the methodology text never really helped us understand what you're going to do with this. So some of the
Mm,
descriptions are a little flowery, and trying to understand what's a textual description and a structural description doesn't make sense when you're looking at these 800 coded segments of data you have. What does that mean? So I'm
mm,
so happy that you have something that is very demonstrative and illustrative of all those questions that I had when I was a student and that I see in students already. I see all the time. My question
mm.
for you around this is, what can we do as professors and instructors working with students to support your engagement with them in this process and in their discovery? What's the role that we can play and how can we do that better?
The thing is that we as methodology experts are there to accelerate the process. We are not part of the dissertation committee, but we are there to provide suggestions that will help students to do a quality job. So I think that what faculty can do is that if they are not all that sure about the approach the student have to use and also maybe in terms of data collection, the number of participants and data analysis, we are there to help. And we are also there to um, just make your work a little bit easy because we will meet with the student, and if you are available, you can also come during the meeting, and we all, have this discussion about the best way, and because the student, most students are doing the research and they have limited time and resources, so we have to be able to provide them um, the service that will help them to complete on time within the time that they have and also within the limited resources that they have. So we are always there to help. If you feel that you are not totally sure about anything related to methodology, you can even, email us and we can address them for you. You don't have to even come with the student. You can clarify us by email us the question, and we'll be happy to address them. And we have so many resources, and I always I can share with you. I have a lot of PowerPoint online that I always share with students. Um, so I can send you a link. If you email me, I can send you the link of the PowerPoint, and it has everything about qualitative analysis, a qualitative approach, mixed method approach, and how to even write chapter 3. And if you are doing qualitative study, how to write chapter 3 for the qualitative. So I have so much resources, including articles that I can share with you. So in terms of methodology, if you get stuck somewhere, or if you want student to, especially sometimes what happens is that maybe a student want to convince you about a specific approach about, or maybe specific strategy that they want to use, and I think maybe to you it's not making sense. And sometimes you will find it very difficult to redirect the person or give the student another option. We are there to help you to do that for you. We will be able to break things down with the student, give them the implication of their action, especially if let's say they are doing a quantitative study, right? And they say that, okay, they are focusing on only maybe 20 participants. We're going to explain to them that because it's a quantitative study, 20 participants is not appropriate, because you will not be able to test some of the hypotheses that they have. We will be able to break things down with them and so that they will be able to understand it well. So we are there to support. We are there to help your work easy for you in terms of methodology. So that's what we can do to help.
Philip, that brings up another question for me about
Yeah.
the methodology consultations.
Yes.
Do you recommend, I know some chairs like to accompany their students. Do you have a preference about that, or is it just up to the chair and the student?
It's up to the chair and the student, but I prefer for the chair to attend the meeting. This is the reason. Sometimes some students have a little bit of ulterior motive. They just want to take a little bit of my advice and they use it and say, "Oh, Dr. Edu said I should do this," you know. So to help us so that all of us are on the same page, if the chair is around, I think it will help us to really discuss the student choice and application, and then so that we will not be misinterpreted, right? Because we are there to just provide support. I always tell students, your chair has the final say. We don't tell you what to do. We just suggest what you have to do, but your chair tells you that this is what we do. So if your chair says that you should do A, there's no way we can tell you that you should do B, unless then maybe there's an issue, and then we can tell the chair, your chair, that okay, I think these are the implications if you follow B, right? But
Yeah.
students chair, if they are available, they should attend. I think that will make our work so easy, so that students will not misquote us or misinterpret what we
Right,
suggest to
right.
do.
Yeah, I prefer to be there, but I do feel like sometimes the students don't want me to. So,
Oh, yeah, and I think I also have some students who even they email me directly, and they don't want chairs to know the question that they are emailing.
oh,
Um,
wow.
so I think it's the issue of um, what can we do to help students accelerate the process, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if a student feel like they want to meet us individually, I think that's fine. We are okay with that. I always tell students that after a meeting, you have to email your chair or update your chair about what we discussed. And if your chair is not clear about anything, your chair can contact me and I'll be able to tell the chair what we discussed. So if it's not compulsory that they have to bring their chair to the meeting, But
Uh-huh.
if the student don't feel comfortable, yes, they can meet us one-on-one, and we can,
Mhm.
break things down to them. Maybe there are some things they don't want their chair to hear, but I think that at the end of the day, we want them to do a quality job, right? So
Mhm.
anything that will be like an impediment in their way, we want to remove it. So if they feel comfortable meeting us alone, yes, we will be happy to meet them. But we always advise that the chair could be around. But if the student thinks that want to meet us alone, that's fine. We will be happy, to meet them alone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great questions, Julie. Thank you. And some of the, I was thinking some of that same as well. I have
Mhm.
go ahead, William.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Morris. And thank you, Dr. Adu. This was amazing, terrific presentation. And I'll definitely be uh, getting that book and taking a closer look at these details because it was very helpful. I have a quick
Mm.
question about um, reading for someone that's doing a qualitative study. Do you have any recommendations how we can, as a chair or a reviewer, how we can review chapters 4 and 5 without maybe impeding on the student's analysis? And so I've always struggled with how to best approach offering recommendations or feedback on their coding and their analysis without potentially overstepping my boundaries just as a reader, since they're technically the instrument kind of, and they're offering their own insight on that analysis. Do you have any feedback on how we can best approach that process?
Yeah, I think that, I have an article on how to present qualitative findings. It was developed by a committee under APA. I think that would be useful. I think if you can use it as a standard of assessing student, I think that would be perfect. And I think as you know, I find out that students, when you give feedback, if you can also give additional resources to them, that would be great. If you have it, if you have them, that would be great. Example, let's say if you don't agree concerning how they are presenting their findings, do you have an example to show them, right? Say in the article, you show them all a presentation that you can show them that, okay, this is how I want you to do it, right? Or this is how I suggest you to do it, right? I think if you can provide them an example, I think that would be really helpful instead of just telling them that maybe the way they are presenting doesn't really help or doesn't address the research question that they have. And I have a lot of presentation that you can use. I have a presentation on how to present qualitative findings. It's in the book, but I also have a presentation on that. I think it would be helpful. So whenever I'm giving feedback on students, maybe chapter 3 or 4, I always link my suggestion um, to maybe an article or a presentation that I would say maybe look at my PowerPoint, this PowerPoint slide 26 or slide 5. It tells you about how to present demographic information as a qualitative study. You can do it in a collective manner or you can do it in a unique manner. If you think that participant have some unique characteristics that you want to share with your audience, you can present participant characteristics individually. If you think that they have some collective information that you want to share, you can present in the collective manner. So I always refer them to one of my presentation in a slide so that it's a way of giving them examples. So um, that's what I have made. I don't know whether I have addressed your question. If not, we can, clarify. Maybe I can
No,
provide
that's
more.
very absolutely very
So,
helpful. And can I find these presentations on your LinkedIn page? I'm thinking it
yeah,
looks like okay.
SlideShare. When you go to SlideShare and you type Philip Edu, you can get everything.
I was just gonna ask Dr. Adu, can you post that link in the chat box?
Yes, let me post everything here. Um, and also, I always share. information about research and research methodology um, on my social media platform. So you can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter, and you'll be able to get a lot of information about, qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis or doing research. Um, I try to share that information for those who follow me. But I think that this PowerPoint will be very, very helpful to students. Everything that you need about research method, and even some methodology like action research and doing action research dissertation. I have a PowerPoint on that. Maybe a student is having problem of how to start or identifying specific topic. I have a presentation on that, step by step on how to come up with a topic, how to narrow down and look into the literature. So um, I always refer students to this information. So
And what was that article again, Dr. Adu? Would you like for me to follow up with you offline if you do not remember it offhand?
oh, the article, let me see, presenting, I think reporting qualitative. This is the article, and you can also email me and I can send you additional article. So this is the article I was talking about. Let me cut and post the title.
All right, thanks so much. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. And I have another one for quantitative reporting. Quantitative. Okay. Any other question?
Well, I have something, but I want to thank Dr. Quisenberry for that question, and you for your response, definitely, because I know that I've found myself in Dr. Q. I think we've been on a committee or so where I've taken some pretty bold stances about some of the things that students have presented, and I find myself often, well, I mean, I say often, but sometimes sort of pushing the envelope and
Mm-hmm.
disagreeing with some of the analysis and asking additional questions and saying, hey, these two themes you have seem to be pretty identical. Can you spend some more time with that? And so it does become a challenge at time of where's the boundaries of my role as a reader, as a chair in what they're putting together in their own analysis. So thank you very much, Dr. Q, for raising that. The the additional question I have, Dr. Adu, is less about methodology and instruction and guidance and coaching this way, but about this book process.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are the things that you learned that we might learn from if any one of the experts on this call or who may listen to this presentation later happens to get an email from a publisher saying, "Hey, would you like to write a book about that?" What
Mm-hmm.
are the things that we should consider and keep in mind?
Yeah, I think that you have to make sure that you have the time to do it because everything is based on time. They will, most of the publishing company, and also you have to also be careful because you have to make sure that the person is authentic. Right. So when the person email me, I do my own research and find out whether she is really working with the publishing company because what you may receive are self-publishing companies where you pay the processing of your book, right? And maybe you might not get much returns. So you have to be very careful about who email you to ask. So try to focus on well-known publishing companies, right? Not self-publishing, but the ones that their names on most of the textbooks, right? Sage and other publishing companies. So and next stage is where the contract. You have to be very careful about contract because you don't want to sign anything that you think that at the end of the day you will not get returned. So sometimes you have to talk to people who have published before with the same company and get some ideas about maybe the royalties in terms of how much percentage are you going to get when they sell each book. Before you sign the contract, you have to consult with people who have written books, so that at the end of the day you know that you are benefiting from the hard work that you have put in. And yeah, I think that's what I have. And I think one thing I've learned about writing a book is you have to think about what you are writing every day, and every day you have to write something, right? You don't stop. Um, so for me, I always write in the evening and early in the morning. Um, and also reflect. It's sometimes what happens is that even when you are driving and quality information ideas come, right? You have to either write them down or you have your phone to record what you are thinking about, right? Sometimes you have to think aloud. And doing that, you'll be able to come up with, new ideas that will help you with in your book. And also always think about your audience. Because when you are writing, you're not writing for yourself, you're writing for some people who have a specific problem. You ask yourself, the information I'm giving, is it all that clear? Will students be calling me frequently to ask me what I wrote? You have to write such a way that you receive less calls from people about things to clarify. You have to be so clear. So I always reflect upon that, and as I, write down and record my thoughts too. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions or comments for the good doctor?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Julie.
All right. Well, with nothing else, we will say thank you very much, Dr. Adu. We appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with us, and
You're welcome.
definitely information about this book. And we appreciate your work to support not only our work, but the work of the students at the Chicago School. Thanks
You're
again.
welcome. You're welcome. And also thank you again for your giving me the opportunity to speak to your faculty. And thank you all for your time. I really appreciate the time that you spend with me.